Not long ago, we were bombarded with images and news of migratory waves all over the world. One of the most striking examples today is the situation in Venezuela, where thousands of people try to cross borders to escape a cruel and inhumane reality. But what if the country in question is not marked by conflict or economic chaos? What happens to a place considered one of the safest, most democratic, liberal, and high quality of life countries that is nevertheless being abandoned by its own population? This is the reality of Uruguay. What has happened? Why are Uruguayan citizens abandoning a country often considered the Switzerland of Latin America? What leads someone to leave a place with so much progress and stability? Uruguay may be small in territory, but it is enormous in personality. Situated between the giants Brazil and Argentina, it extends along the Atlantic coast of South America, with the Rio de la Plata serving as a frame for its vibrant capital, Montevideo. Despite its modest size of only 176,000 square kilometers, the country stands out for its immense strength. With nearly 3.5 million inhabitants, most of the population is concentrated in urban areas, especially in the capital. But don't be fooled, there's much more than modern cities and popular beaches. From vast plains known as the Pampa, to rolling hills and a coastline filled with beaches that rival the best tourist destinations, Uruguay offers a surprising geographical variety. But this varied geography is not the only thing that grabs attention. With its political stability, remarkable social progress, and striking quality of life, Uruguay has earned over the years the nickname of the Switzerland of South America. But it wasn't always like this. The country has faced turbulent times, from colonial disputes to periods of great political and economic instability in the 20th century. Only with much effort and deep reforms did Uruguay reinvent itself and reach the level we see today. This transformation did not happen overnight and is marked by progressive decisions that have challenged paradigms. In other words, the country is on the right track, and there are plenty of examples. But let's start with a controversial topic: drugs. While many countries are still debating the pros and cons of legalization, Uruguay made history in 2013. Yes, Uruguay didn't stay in the debate. In 2013, it became the first country in the world to legalize the production, sale, and consumption of the plant. While other nations were still debating, Uruguayans were already putting everything into practice, showing they were not afraid to take risks. The idea, led by then-President José Mujica, yes, the charismatic man who drove a VW Beetle, was clear: reduce drug trafficking, control the quality of the product, and offer a safer alternative to consumers. No more clandestine plans or unnecessary risks. It was a bet on public health and harm reduction, with a touch of Uruguayan pragmatism, of course. The decision caused a stir worldwide. Some found it brilliant, while others remained skeptical. But Uruguay stood firm. The herb is now sold in pharmacies with state control and regulated prices, a completely atypical model that has proven to be more than just a revolutionary idea, a social experiment in action. And this is how Uruguay became a world reference, generating curiosity and even a bit of envy around the globe. But do you think it stopped there? Of course not. When it comes to rights and inclusion, Uruguay leaves no one behind. In a region where many battles are still being fought, the country has taken giant steps and was one of the first to legalize same-sex marriage. Besides legalizing cannabis, this decision, which many found bold, reinforced Uruguay's commitment to equality and justice. And that's not all. Uruguay not only opened the door to marriage equality, but also advanced policies that guarantee rights and protections for the LGBTQ community. From anti-discrimination legislation to advances in adoption rights, the country demonstrates that inclusion is not just empty rhetoric but practice. Here, the idea is simple: loving and being who you are should not be grounds for inequality. What could be more progressive than that? But it's not just progressive attitudes that draw attention, right? In fact, besides having this progressive and liberal mentality, the country is an example of good living. When it comes to quality of life, Uruguay does not disappoint. With one of the highest human development indexes in Latin America, the country seems to have found a balance that many only dream of. Here, health, education, and well-being are more than promises in political speeches. They are concrete realities that impress. Let's start with healthcare. The public system offers free access to hospitals and clinics staffed by competent professionals, ensuring care for all citizens. In education, the situation is also enviable. The country's best university, UDELAR, is free and has no entrance exams, a policy based on the belief that education is a right for all. There are private institutions, but anyone can study without spending a dime. And regarding lifestyle, Uruguay offers a routine that many yearn for. Walking, jogging, or even taking a walk in nature can all be achieved without expensive equipment. This is It's common to find people relaxing in parks with friends and family, or closing shops on Sundays to slow down. The pace is relaxed, valuing simple moments like a sunset, a walk on the beach, or a good plate of food. Even in large cities, the atmosphere reminds one of small towns. Efficient public transport, little traffic, and much to do on foot. Behind this enviable status, there is more. The economy is one of the most stable in the region, with a per capita GDP of $22,000 according to the World Bank, placing it in the high-income category. The infrastructure works well, education is accessible, and violence is controlled, with homicide rates much lower than many of its neighbors. And an important detail, the Uruguayan government has a reputation for clean management, without the scandals that stain so many other nations. In 2022, it topped the Corruption Perception Index in Latin America and ranked 20th globally, with a score of 73 out of 100. All this makes it clear that Uruguay is a country that turns policies into tangible realities, an example of quality living that provokes envy. And rightly so. Speaking of examples, Uruguay leaves no stone unturned when it comes to sustainability. About 98% of the country's electricity comes from renewable sources. Yes, almost all the energy that powers the country is clean, and they have not limited themselves to a single source. Wind energy, solar energy, hydroelectric energy. Uruguay seems to have decided to collect the entire package of green solutions. Since the early 2000s, Uruguay has invested heavily in sustainable policies, attracting investments and creating partnerships to transform its energy sector. Today, the Uruguayan energy landscape is a global reference, the envy of major powers. But it's not all work, right? Quality of life also means enjoying life in various ways, and Uruguay does not disappoint anyone when it comes to pleasure. But calm your polluted mind. We're not talking about pleasure within four walls, but the pleasure of eating. And let's admit it, what better way to enjoy than by eating well? Uruguayan gastronomy is a complete experience for the palate. Let's start with the barbecue. And we're not talking about just any barbecue, but the famous Uruguayan asado, prepared with patience and mastery. It's a social event in itself, where the meat is slowly grilled to perfection, and the feast of flavors doesn't end there. Uruguayan wines, especially those made with tannat grapes, are a national treasure gaining admirers worldwide. A glass of this full-bodied wine, a good piece of meat, and of course, dulce de leche. In Uruguay, dulce de leche is not just a sweet, it's a passion. Whether in desserts or on its own, it steals the show and wins hearts. And if you're in the mood for a snack, don't worry. There's the chivito, a sandwich filled with meat, cheese, bacon, egg, and much more. Basically, a warm hug in the form of food. And of course, we can't forget the ritual of mate. If you like this iconic drink, Uruguay is paradise. Here, per capita mate consumption is the highest in the world, and the beverage is much more than tea. It's a daily, almost sacred tradition that connects friends and families. And just when you think it can't get better, Uruguay says, relax, there's still culture and fun. When we talk about carnival, it's natural to think of Brazil with its grand parades and electric trios that shake the streets for 4 days. Salvador, the land of carnival, extends the festivities for 12 days. But if that seems too much, wait until you discover Uruguay, where the party doesn't rush to end. Here, the carnival goes far beyond expectations. For 40 days from January to March, the country transforms into a continuous spectacle of color, music, and energy. It's the longest carnival in the world. It's not just about costume parades. It's an authentic cultural celebration with street performances, improvised stages, murgas, and candombe, African-rooted rhythms that make anyone move. Who needs 4 days of carnival when you can enjoy almost 2 months? And since we're talking about Brazil, there's another passion that the country shares with its neighbors: football. Sure, Uruguay has fewer titles than the Brazilians, but that doesn't diminish the pride and passion they feel for every shot on goal. Officially, Uruguay has 2 World Cup titles, and they are keen to remind everyone of it. In 1930, Uruguay was the first country to organize and win a World Cup, defeating Argentina 4-2 at the Centenario Stadium in Montevideo. It was the inaugural match of the tournament, and they had already shown the world that they came to stay. 2 decades later, in 1950, the Uruguayan team silenced Maracanã by beating Brazil 2-1 in the unforgettable Maracanazo. It's a history soaked in glory and victories that fills every Uruguayan with pride and fuels the dream of winning again. Football is more than a sport. It's a way of life, an eternal passion. We're getting close to the end, but we can't say goodbye without talking about one of the most charming facets of this amazing country, its landscapes. When we think of Uruguay, we often think of beautiful beaches, and rightfully so. With 660 kilometers of coastline, the country is home to some of the most enchanting beaches in South America. Punta del Este, known as the Saint-Tropez of South America, attracts visitors from around the world with its vibrant nightlife, luxurious hotels, and beautiful beaches. But if you're looking for something quieter, Uruguay also offers beaches like Cabo Polonio and José Ignacio, where the rustic charm and serenity are the main attractions. The natural beauty doesn't stop at the coast. The country is also home to national parks and protected areas, offering ample opportunities for hiking, birdwatching, and reconnecting with nature. But despite all these positives, Uruguayans are leaving the country. What's going on? The reason is simpler than it seems: the cost of living. Despite all the beauty and quality of life, living in Uruguay is expensive. The cost of living is significantly higher than in neighboring countries, affecting the daily lives of citizens. To give you an idea, while a tube of toothpaste costs $6 in Uruguay, just across the border in Brazil, the same product can be found for $1.30. This high cost of living is due to several factors. First, the country's small size means there are no economies of scale, making production more expensive. Secondly, Uruguay depends heavily on imports for many goods, which drives prices up. And let's not forget the high taxes. Uruguay imposes a 22% VAT on most goods and services, making everything more expensive. In addition to the high cost of living, wages in Uruguay are relatively low. In 2020, the average monthly income was around $700, which is insufficient to cover the high costs of living. This financial pressure leads many Uruguayans to seek opportunities abroad. In summary, while Uruguay is progressive and offers a high quality of life, it faces significant challenges. High living costs and low wages push many to leave, revealing a paradox in this seemingly ideal country.